the best way to start a new habit. And pretty interesting chapter, I think. Kind of starting to get into the meat of how to actually apply some of these things he's talking about. So the first bit, he talks about how uh, creating an intention around what you're going to do. Uh, he calls it a implementation intention, but really it's finishing a sentence as to how you're going to do it. What do you think of this first bit, Dan?
Yeah, well, he's talking about the best way to start a new habit, which is pretty significant because, as you know, like when we talk to people, we're like, hey, you need to start doing something different and think differently. And they're like, well, how do I do that? And you're like, well, there are tools or apps like Habit Bull and
Yep.
other, tools like that. But it's, how do you even get it started, right? Because as he said, the cue, that can trigger a habit can come in a wide range of forms. So, what is the cue? And he says, the buzzing of the phone in your pocket, the smell of chocolate chip cookies, the sound of ambulance sirens. So, it's critical to understand what the cue is in your life in terms of the things that cause you to repeat the habits that you have, and then create ones that you want. So he says an implementation intention, and I love that term because he's saying you have to live with intention, and there's great books on that, like The Seed of the Soul talks about living with intention. And if you have implementation intentions, then you need to basically follow this format, which is when situation X arises, I will perform response Y.
Yep.
And, for example, as you know, Mark, like when I get up in the morning, I have my water, and then as soon as I go to the bathroom, finish in the bathroom, I'm putting on my gear. So as soon as I'm finishing there, my cycling gear is put on, and then I get to writing, and then, it's just one thing after the other. So, when I get out of bed. I mean, it's like, how about making your bed even, right? Like
Yep.
people who make their bed are organized. Like when I wake up, I will make my bed, right? It's very simple.
Yes.
And, but yeah, I love the approach that he's taking here, and the fact that he's helping us create habits so easily by recognizing what we're doing already, and then, and then creating an implementation intention. It's going to help you, land your habits and get your intentions sorted out much easier. So,
Yeah. And well, he says right here, he says, hundreds of studies have shown that implementation intentions are effective for sticking to our goals, whether it's writing down the exact time and date you're going to get your flu shot or recording the time of your appointment. Right? It's just once you start these habits and they're effective for you, that you just keep doing them, right? And it's like you said, the cue. What is the cue that causes them? Like you say, first thing in the morning when you get up, it's your water and then make the bed, right? We all have
yeah,
the similar habits, right? Mine's a little different. I get up, make the bed, and then drink water. But one of my habits is last thing I do at night is I fill a glass of water and put it right there ready to drink.
yeah, yeah. No, actually, I get up, make my bed, and then I come to my office. My water's waiting for me
Yep.
there. Have water and go through the whole routine. But yeah, he said the two most common cues are time and location. So that's why you have to say when situation X arises, I'll perform response Y. Time and location, those are consistent. So if you're going to write this down and use it, then definitely you want to remember time and location. Because when you make a specific plan of when you perform a new habit, then you're more likely to follow through. Right?
Right.
There's a greater chance. You need to give yourself some leverage, because honestly, we have habits, and we all do, and we just, some of them are not even serving us, but we keep repeating them, right?
Yeah.
We're not at the point where we're going to release them, but this is a way of replacing them instead of releasing them.
Yes.
So
Yes. You just have to you start to be aware. And went back when I drank soda or pop, as we call it here in Canada. I had a habit that was when I filled my vehicle up with gas, I would walk in to pay for the gas and get a soda.
yeah,
It was just a habit. And I had to replace it because it wasn't a healthy habit.
right,
Right. So
yeah.
it's okay, what do I do instead?
Yeah, I saw that with my brother when we were running a business. Every time I looked at the credit card statements, I'm seeing gas, chocolate bar, chocolate milk, right? Like
Yeah,
over and
yeah,
over and over and over. Same, the cue is get gas, have sugar, right?
yeah,
Get it,
yeah.
spike my,
Well, and here in Canada now, pretty much every place you have to prepay or pay at the pump. So
mhm.
you just develop the habit if you pay at the pump, then you never enter the store, which removes the queue to get the sugary whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
He had a great point here too. He said, "We leave it up to chance, and we hope that we will just remember to do it or feel motivated at the right time. We know that doesn't work, right? Like it's just, And he says the foggy notions, like I want to work out more, or I want to be more productive. I've heard people say these things so many times. I want to be more productive, or I should work out more. It's like, well, okay, what's the plan? What's the system? What's
Yeah.
the approach? What are you going to do to, you know, trigger yourself. I remember years ago, I used to work in an office, and there was a group of people that would go in the gym right after work. So
Yeah.
I would just come out of the door, and I developed the habit that I came out of the door and went right across the other building and into the gym. And if I didn't do that, I felt like there was something weird, something missing.
Yeah.
So, you know, once you develop it and you start repeating it, it's really natural to do. I have a morning routine that it doesn't matter where I go, But I was in Florida a couple of years ago, and I went there, and I was doing my morning routine, which is I go for a walk, but I ended up wandering on a golf course, and then of course the marshal kicked me off. but but it was early morning. I figured,
Yeah.
who's out here, all right? So. But yeah, and he said, people lack the motivation when they really lack clarity. So it's not motivation, it's clarity.
Yeah.
Like start off with clarity, right? And then you
Yes.
have focus, and then you take action, then you get some results, and then if you like it, you rinse and repeat and keep doing that. So
Yeah. And that's, yeah. And like he says, once an implementation intention has been set, you don't have to wait for the inspiration to strike you, right? It's just when this happens, then I do that. And I love that part. But then he talks about creating a simple predetermined plan. And he says the simple way to apply the strategy to your habits is to fill out this sentence: I will behavior at time in location. And he gives us a couple of examples. And, meditation: I will meditate at 7 a.m. for 1 minute in my kitchen. Pretty simple, right? Because it's time and place. This is when I will do this at this time.
yeah,
Same with exercise. You talked about it, when you walked out of the building, you just walked straight across and went to the gym,
right.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's just routine, and then it just becomes a normal thing to do. And if you change if I change what I was doing that day, then it would just throw me off. So,
Yeah.
but he made a good point here. He said, if you're not sure when to start your habit, try the first day of the week, month, or year. And it's, I guess through research, they said people are more likely to take action at those times because hope is usually higher.
Yes.
It's kind of, I guess it's a reset, right? First week, day of the week, month, or year, right?
Yes.
And if we have high hope, or if we have hope, we have a reason to take action, and a fresh start feels motivating. So, listen, I used to teach spinning classes. Monday night classes were so jammed. And I would ask people in the class, I'm like, why do you come to Monday? Oh, because I binged on the weekend and I did nothing and everything. Now I need to fix it, right? And it's like, well, that's not going to fix it with one class. But anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a point of motivation. Same as anybody that runs a gym knows that January 1st, they're going to have a whole bunch of memberships sold. And as you and I both know from going to the gym so much, come mid-February, 1st of March, 90% of those people that started in January have quit.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to teach spinning classes, like I was saying, and I would see those people come in, and I'd see they're new, and I'd say, welcome to the class. It's going to be very challenging. You're probably not going to like it after the first one or two or three times. And I said, I challenge you to be here in March or April.
Yeah.
and that was it, But now I know the implementation intentions. I probably could have taught them how to create a plan that they could have succeeded. So,
Yes.
Yeah, he also said here being specific about what you want and how you will achieve it helps you to say no to the things that will derail progress, distract your attention, and pull you off course. That's really critical because it's like you have to get rid of something in order to make space for the habit you want. So if you are not capable of saying no, like let's say, cake or something like that, if somebody, or a buffet, like you just gorge, you go to the dessert table
Yeah.
and have like 5 plates, right? If you're not able to say no, then you won't make space for the habit that you established. So, yeah, that's really, I think that is one of the critical points is being able to say no. So,
Yes.
so that you don't say yes to little requests or the little things or opportunities that come your way.
Yeah, that are going to derail you. Yeah, I would agree. And it's, and that's why this implementation intention uh, really works, because sometimes then when an old trigger would cause you to do something else, you can still use that trigger when it causes you to create the new habit, to do the new habit. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, and he taught us some things earlier on. It's like have a clear language in your mind for what you want. So if
Mm-hmm.
it's food related, and somebody says, "Hey, you want some of this?" You say, "Oh, no, I don't need that." Right? It's like you don't
Yeah.
say, "Well, not now," or "I'm full," or something. You just say, "No, I just don't consume that. It's
Right.
not
Yeah. Yeah.
not my diet."
Example. Yeah. People that are, they fast at certain times of the year for religious reasons. They don't have to make a decision. They're fasting. Period. They don't.
Yeah.
They don't
They're
consume.
not like, that smells good. I'll have some. I'll sneak some. No,
No.
their culture and commitment is strong, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then he talks about habit stacking, and I like this. He tells a little story about a French philosopher from many, many years ago, uh, Denis Diderot. And how he, because he came into some financial win, uh, found himself replacing certain things in his world. He replaced a robe that he wore, which then caused him to want to replace other things in his house, because the exact quote was that there was no more coordination, no more unity, and no more beauty between his elegant robe and the rest of his stuff. So he slowly started going through and replacing, his the rug on his floor and his kitchen table and his chair, and he did all this stuff. And they've proven that this is a normal habit that people have, that they just slowly, once they replace one thing, they keep replacing things.
Mhm.
It's kind of a cycle of consumption.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's coined the Diderot effect, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
even mentioned it the other day, and somebody knew it. I was like, okay, it's pretty common. First time I've heard of it, but yeah. So basically, it states that obtaining a new possession often creates a spiral of consumption that leads to additional purchases.
Yeah.
You know, it's and you can spot it everywhere, right? You get a new dress, and then you have to get new shoes, new earrings, or like my kids, you
Yeah.
get Nintendo Switch, then you got to get the games, and you got to get some controllers and this and that. Or my son getting a PC, you got the motherboard, then you got to get the fans. It's like all these
Right.
things, right? All the accessories, and and it's interesting. He's saying many human behaviors follow this cycle.
Yeah.
You decide what to do next based on what you've just finished doing, which is mind blowing when you start thinking about it, right? If you had a plan for the day, but then you went and did something, and then it took you down a path of like heading to the store to buy something,
Yeah.
you're completely off your schedule.
Yeah. And it's true. And he goes on to talk about, and he does give credit to Professor BJ Fogg and his Tiny Habits program. But he says you can design an obvious cue for nearly any habit. And he just talks about the habit stacking that BJ Fogg taught him was, after I current habit, I will new habit,
Yeah.
right?
And
So
he also mentions no behavior happens in isolation. Each action becomes a cue that triggers the next behavior. So nothing happens in isolation. And and using BJ Fogg's system can solve that.
yeah, yeah. Well, like he's, you know, one of the habits he's talking about. He talks about safety. And he says, after I put on my running shoes, I will text a friend or family member as to where I'm running and how long it will take. Right. So this is just I'm going for a run. I'm going to go here. I'll be an hour, whatever it is. But
Yeah.
it's just creating a new habit, and you know, you can use it in a lot of areas.
Yeah, and you can tie it to things that you do every day.
Yeah.
So basically you can create a stack that you just chain your small habits together.
Yes.
I hadn't thought about it too much, but I probably could write down the things that I do right now, which is, like after I get up and make my bed, after I make my bed, I drink my water, after I go to the bathroom, I put on my fitness gear, after I do that, right? And, it's like,
Yeah.
but if you want to have a habit stack and you're already doing some things already, then you just stack it. You write it down and commit to it and measure it. And sooner or later you'll see, you see your performance. You'll see how it's building up.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, he talks about one little habit stack. After I pour a cup of coffee in the morning, I'll meditate for 60 seconds. Then after he meditates for 60 seconds, I'll write my to-do list for the day. And then after I do my to-do list, I will immediately start on my first task.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And it's really, it's just programming your mind for the success you want.
Yes.
Mapping it out, in a simple way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he says you can insert new behaviors into the middle of your current routines. Right. So as an example, he said, your morning routine might be wake up, make my bed, take a shower. Right. And then if you want a new habit, then you might say, okay, well, wake up, make my bed, place a book on my pillow, take a shower. Right. So then when you climb into bed each night, you have your book. Just like you said earlier, you have water ready there for you. Just like I do. I have a bottle. My bottle's here now. I've already had it this morning. So now it's back there for tomorrow. Right. Sometimes if I don't fill it, then I'm like, oh man. I'm thrown off.
Well, yeah. It throws you off if when you get into that habit. And he talked about that earlier too, that, when you do something and it becomes routine, becomes a habit for you, if you suddenly aren't doing it at a specific time and place that you would normally do it, you're kind of like, hey, what's off here? Something's wrong. Yeah. Right.
I even noticed that in the morning I have a smoothie and I have certain ingredients I take out of the cupboard. So I just realized, okay, well, how can I get that ready for the morning? So it's like I make tea at night. So it's like after I make tea, I take out the ingredients from the cupboard for my morning smoothie. So then it's there on the counter waiting for me, right? And then I don't have to think about it and just a little bit of time shaved off.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, this is so fascinating because you can shave off, you might shave off hours. I've noticed clients shave off hours just by creating new habits. And then once you've figured that out, then you can work on minutes, and then you can work on seconds. I don't know if you want to go down to milliseconds, but, you can.
Right. And well, the one thing, and he talks about a little bit that you maybe have to test it a bit to find the best time. Like he said here, if you're going to have meditation to your morning routine, but mornings are chaotic and the kids keep running in and out of the room, which as parents, we both know that can happen. That might be the wrong time and place to do it. Right.
Right.
So where could you put that somewhere else in your day?
Yeah, exactly. And he's saying no matter how you do this, the secret is to select the right cue to kick things off.
Yes.
So you need a cue of some kind to get you started and moving down that path.
Yeah.
Time and location, right? So, but where you choose to insert it in your day, that can make a big difference. So make sure that, that's why some people try to put fitness later in the day and then they don't get it done. And I say, what? The least amount of friction is in the morning. Get up early, do it. It's quiet. There's not likely things to go wrong and people get in your way and interruptions,
Yeah.
But some people are just not that motivated in the morning.
Well, when I lived in the city and there was a 24-hour gym, my cousin and I, who worked out together, we'd just be at the gym at 5. Simple.
Yeah.
Right. A couple of things, like you say, you get your exercise in early in the morning, but secondly, the gym's empty at 5 in the morning.
Yeah. Use all the equipment you like.
Yeah, that's right. There's no waiting for equipment. You just, because anybody else is in there at 5, same thing. They're just there to work out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. They're an agenda.
absolutely.
So, yeah. And he also said that your cue should have the same frequency as your desired habit.
Yes.
So, so if you want to do a habit every day, but if you stack it on top of a day where or if you stack it on top of a habit that only happens in one day, like a Monday, then that's not a good choice. So,
Yeah.
very, very clear distinction there. And then he also suggests a way that you can do this. I mean, he has something called the habit scorecard. Essentially, you're just writing down all your habits.
Yeah.
And you might have to take a few days to do it because you might not remember all your habits, right? But as you
Yeah.
do
And that
them,
was in the chapter 4 video.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So if you haven't watched that video, watch it because we talk about that, about habit scorecard so that you can track your habits because that's the starting point. But he also said that you can create a list of 2 columns, and the first column write down the habits you do each day without fail. And some examples, like get out of bed, take a shower, brush your teeth, get dressed, write all those down. And then the second column, you would write down things that happen each day without fail, like the sun rises, and you get a text message, or the song you're listening to ends, or the sun sets. Those are things that are going to happen. They're reliable.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, yeah, and there was one of the things I had highlighted here. He said habit stacking works best when the cue is highly specific and immediately actionable.
Yes.
Many people select cues that are too vague, and he said that he made this mistake, and he said he wanted to start a push-up habit, and then he said, when I take a break for lunch, I will do a push-up. And then that sounded reasonable, but then he realized he wasn't getting it done, and then he realized the trigger was unclear. So, what did he do is push-up before ate lunch or after ate lunch, or where would he do them? And then after a few inconsistent days, he said, when I close my laptop for lunch, I would do 10 push-ups next to my desk. Ambiguity gone, clear, and then he gets it done.
Yeah, and that's from BJ Fogg's. He actually talks about that one, and the one cue he said, if you're working in your office, every time you go to the bathroom, when you come back, do a push-up.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So,
yeah. My habit is every time I go to the bathroom, I do affirmations.
There you go. But it's just something that you can work on, right? Okay, this is a clear, right? Okay, I've left the office, went to the bathroom, come back into the office, do a push-up.
Right.
Or do 10 push-ups, or whatever your goal is at that point.
Yeah, and if you're, by the way, the idea of doing affirmations at washroom breaks is that those are odd moments, as we learned. I forget who coined that term, who taught us that, but those are odd moments. So if you go to the bathroom every day, you can do some affirmations, or you could ask yourself some questions or something like that. But just have a trigger. Easiest way is just to put them on the mirror with a dry erase marker. you look at it and you read it automatically.
Yeah, or a sticky note, or if you don't have dry erase markers, use a sticky note. Write them down, stick them in the mirror.
Yeah, yeah. But then you just automatically see it and read it. And that's it. It's like a stop sign or signs as you're driving along the road. You happen to be reading them, right? Yeah. So,
I like this. He says the first law of behavior change is to make it obvious. Strategies like implementation, intention, and habit stacking are among the most practical ways to create obvious cues, right? And it's got to be obvious. So you got to have that cue that triggers you to start taking that new action that you want.
Yeah. Make it simple. Like he really pumped that into our heads, like in a few chapters, and he said, like, make it so simple that you will do it. Don't make it difficult. That's why I say to some people, like, hey, they want to start doing a morning routine. I'm like, yeah, well, do 10 minutes of exercise or 5 or something. They're like, well, that doesn't seem like much. Well, yeah, so what? Start there and then build up.
Yeah. Well, and it's that old KISS principle, right? Keep it super simple.
Yeah.
Right. That's that's been around forever, but with this, make the cue simple and make it obvious. And you'll do it.
Yeah, so the summary says the first law of behavior change is to make it obvious. And the 2 most common cues are time and location. And creating an implementation intention is a strategy you can use to pair a new habit with a specific time and location. And the implementation intention formula is, I will behavior at time in location. And habit stacking is a strategy you can use to pair a new habit with the current habit. And the habit stacking formula is after I, current habit, I will, new habit. So put those things into action and you'll have habits under control. And if you like apps, use Habit Bull, like bull with horns, or there's many out there you can find them. But
that app actually, the logo for it looks a lot like the Chicago Bulls, the NBA team's logo. So it's an easy one to find.
Yeah, and it works. And you can have 5 habits for free, and if you go over that, and you pay them $10 a year or whatever. So
yeah.
Good.
All right. Well, the next chapter, motivation is overrated. Environment often matters more. So that sounds like an interesting chapter.
Yeah, especially if you're wondering, like, environment, what do you mean?
We always hear you have to have motivation. You have to be motivated. But motivation fails sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. Okay. Well, that was, it's an awesome chapter. So we're going to wrap it up, but hopefully you took notes. And if you didn't, you listen to this back again. And if there's some things from chapter 4 we mentioned, listen to that audio and video and put into action. We'd love to hear from you as well and hear how your habits are going, especially with this newfound information you have.